And excellent news coming in by way of RBI. At the end of last week, India's current account balance recorded a surplus of $13.5 billion in the Jan to March quarter of FY25, marking 1.3% of GDP, a sharp improvement from the $4.6 billion surplus in the same period last year. This according to the Reserve Bank of India. The turnaround comes after a deficit of $11.3 billion in the previous quarter. Now, for the full year of 2024-25, the current account deficit narrowed to $23.3 billion or 0.6% of India's GDP, down from $26 billion in the previous year, largely driven by stronger net invisible receipts. Now, while the merchandise trade deficit widened to $59.5 billion in the March quarter, up from $52 billion a year earlier, it eased from the $79.3 billion recorded in the December quarter. Let's move to services. The net services receipts showed strong growth as well, jumping to $53.3 billion from $42.7 billion in the previous year. The RBI attributed this rise to continued strength in business and computer services exports. And moving on to corporate stories that we're tracking for you this morning. Anant Ambani-led Reliance Power is setting its sights on the global energy market with plans to establish a 1,500 megawatt gas-based power project overseas. According to media reports, the company has submitted bids for projects in Kuwait, the UAE and Malaysia as it looks to expand its international footprint through a focused global strategy. Now, backed by existing projects in Bhutan, where it has secured a 500 megawatt solar project and a 770 megawatt hydropower project, Reliance Power is now aiming to unlock up to 2,000 crore rupees by monetizing two world-class 750 megawatt power modules currently housed in India. The company originally imported 3 such modules from General Electric for a domestic project. Now, one of them was sent to Bangladesh in collaboration with Japan's JERA, and now the remaining 2 could power the new overseas venture. Now, company spokesperson confirmed Reliance Power's participation in global tenders, highlighting its edge in speed of execution. While global suppliers usually take years to deliver similar equipment, Reliance Power already has 1,500 megawatts of ready-to-deploy capacity. Now, as global demand for gas-based and cleaner power grows, the company is also doubling down on renewables with a robust pipeline that includes 2.5 gigawatts of solar capacity and over 2.5 gigawatt hours of battery storage in development. Well, time for a very short break, but more stories coming up on the other side, including Anant Ambani's salary hike, which is soon to kick in. We'll tell you all about that on the other side. You're watching News 9.
झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
ये गोल्डन का एक तेरे लिए मंगाओ? मेरे नए म्यूजिक गॉगल्स मंगाओ क्या?
नई गाड़ी कप होल्डर है, छुकी भी रख सकते हैं, म्यूजिक भी।
सेविंग्स की विद्या तो तुझसे सीखे।
कुछ बड़ा बनाना है तो पहले बचाओ। फेडरल बैंक से रिश्ता बनाओ।
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every seam, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers, the Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News 9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News 9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News 9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Is this politics of appeasement?
That is the ground reality.
The violence continued unabated for the next 24 hours. Why is there Mamta for Pahalgam but not for Murshidabad?
Everyone in Pakistan is saying that India has punished us. You are all agreeing that Operation Sindoor is a success. तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है? किसका नमाज़े जनाजा निकल रहा था बहावलपुर में और रावलपिंडी में?
What began as a day of celebration turned into a tragedy. The High Court has stepped in and political blame game has ensued. Why is it so difficult in Indian society to say no, mistake has been made? This timeline is going to make things very clear. This was very much avoidable. Unparalleled scene, unimaginable to watch. America and Europe are reaping what they have sowed. Is this the new frontier of the American politics?
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News 9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News 9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News 9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching News 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. Let's next move on now to another story that we're bringing for you this morning. And Anant Ambani, the youngest son of billionaire Mukesh Ambani and the first among the three siblings to be appointed executive director on flagship Reliance Industries, will be paid a salary of 10 to 20 crore rupees annually plus a host of perks, including a commission on the company's profits. These according to shareholder notice reported by the Press Trust of India. Now, while the richest Asians, all three children, twins Akash and Isha and Anant, were inducted on the board of Reliance Industries in 2023 as non-executive directors, the youngest of the three in April this year was appointed the executive director of Reliance Industries Limited. Now, as non-executive directors, the three were entitled to no salary and were each paid a sitting fee of 4 lakh rupees in the year 2023-24 and a commission on profit of 97 lakh rupees each. But as an executive director, 30-year-old Anant Ambani will be entitled to a salary and other prerequisites. Now, Reliance, in a stock exchange notice on Sunday, said shareholder approval on the appointment has been sought through a postal ballot. The appointments in 2023 were part of a succession planning at India's most valuable company, which many saw as Ambani's attempt to avoid the sibling feud that followed his father's death in the year 2002. Now, Isha Ambani is on the board of Reliance Retail and joined that of the newly spun-off Jio Financial Services. Akash chairs telecoms. Now, Anant is part of the Materials and Renewable Energy Ventures. They operate alongside professional managers. In a postal ballot, Reliance said Anant Ambani's salary, prerequisites and allowances shall be in the range of 10 to 20 crore rupees per annum. The prerequisites and allowances shall include accommodation or house rent allowance in lieu thereof, house maintenance allowance together with reimbursement of expenses and or allowances for utilization of gas, electricity, water, furnishing and repairs, and leave travel concession for self and family, including dependents. He shall also be entitled to reimbursement of expenses incurred for traveling, boarding and lodging, including for his spouse and attendants during business trips, and provision of cars for use on company's business and communication expense at residence. Anant Ambani will also be entitled to medical reimbursement as well as company-arranged security for him and his family members. In addition to the salary, prerequisites and allowances, Anant Ambani shall be entitled to receive remuneration based on net profits as per the notice. And in a major consolidation move in the Indian pharma sector, Torrent Pharmaceuticals has announced the acquisition of a controlling 46.39% stake in JB Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals from global investment firm KKR. The transaction values JB Pharma at a staggering 25,689 crore rupees on a fully diluted basis. Following the acquisition, Torrent also plans to merge JB Chemicals with itself. The deal will unfold in two phases. In the first phase, Torrent will acquire 46.4% stake for 11,917 crore rupees, paying 1,600 rupees per share. This will trigger a mandatory open offer to public shareholders for up to 26% at 1,639.18 rupees per share. Additionally, Torrent may buy up to 2.8% from certain employees at the same price offered to KKR. In the second phase, JB Pharma will be merged with Torrent Pharmaceuticals through a share swap arrangement where shareholders will receive 51% shares for every 100 shares of JB Pharma they hold. JB Pharma CEO Nikhil Chopra welcomed the deal, saying the company has built a strong foundation in recent years and that the merger would help broaden healthcare access across markets. And moving to the beleaguered Air India now. Air India continues to struggle with operational disruptions in the wake of the deadly Ahmedabad crash. On Sunday, flight AI 357 from Tokyo's Haneda airport to Delhi was diverted to Kolkata after the crew reported unusually high cabin temperatures. In a statement, the airline said the diversion was a precautionary measure and confirmed that the aircraft landed safely. The plane is currently undergoing checks while passengers are being assisted with alternate travel arrangements. Air India expressed regret for the inconvenience caused and said all necessary support is being provided. This incident comes just 2 days after another flight, AI 639 from Mumbai to Chennai, was forced to return to Mumbai following reports of a burning smell inside the cabin. The aircraft also landed safely and passengers were rebooked on another flight. The string of back-to-back technical issues has raised fresh concerns over flight safety and maintenance, especially after the tragic crash of flight AI 171 near Ahmedabad on June 12th. And moving on now to markets that we're tracking for you. Remember, Friday saw historic close in the US with fresh highs being reached on the US indices. Meanwhile, let's look at Asian markets as they opened just hours before the Indian markets open. And here's what we've got for you. We've got the Hang Seng, which is down about 0.5 percentage point in trade this morning. The Taiwan TAIEX is down about 0.6%, but we're seeing better news coming in from Japan. Japan's Nikkei 225 is up almost 1.6%. Kospi. South Korea's main index is up about 0.75 of a percentage point, while China's Shanghai Composite Index is up about 1/5 of a percentage point. That's what we're seeing on Asian markets. Remember, all this also comes at a time when oil prices have cooled to a 2023 low of just about $68 a barrel. Meanwhile, let's also look at U.S. markets and see what was the scene at US on Friday when you had the S&P 500 up almost 0.5 percentage point, the Dow Jones up almost 1%, in fact a little over 1%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index was also up about 0.5 percentage point. So that's the action that we saw in the US, and of course Asian markets also responded mostly positively, favorably to what we are hearing globally from the US and of course the cooling oil prices. Meanwhile, let's also look at the Indian markets and take a look at how the Sensex and the Nifty are faring. Remember, Friday Sensex had breached the 84,000 levels, but this morning a little bit of stress, not too much as it seems right now, but Sensex is down about 20 basis points or so below the 84,000 levels, now at 83,900 or so. Nifty meanwhile again below the 25,600 mark, marginally just at 25,598. Better news coming from the small cap and mid cap space. The Nifty mid cap 100 is now inching closer to that 60,000 level at about 59,628. The small cap index is also holding above the 19,000 levels. Volatility pretty okay, even though the percentage term seems a little higher, up about 3.5%, but holding at about 12.8 levels or so. So the fear index, the India VIX, is also not really in a sharp volatile mood this morning. Let's look at the Nifty 50 heat map and try and see which are the sectors that are reeling under some sort of a pain this morning. And it seems to be again the banking sector, which was under pressure on Friday, seems to be under pressure this morning as well. Kotak Mahindra Bank is down about 0.7% or so. HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, both down 0.4%. Better news coming from the IT space. TCS, Tech Mahindra, both in the green this morning, 0.4% or so up. But the auto sector and the consumer durables sector seems to be reeling under some pain. Mahindra & Mahindra is down more than a percentage. Maruti Suzuki is down about 1/5 of a percentage point. So that's the Nifty 50 heat map for you. Meanwhile, the energy minerals ONGC is up about 0.9% or so. Better news coming in, of course, on oil prices, and that seems to be reflecting well for the ONGC stock this morning. Well, we have a very special guest joining us this morning. Independent market expert Amrish Baliga is here to decode what's the mood of the markets this morning. Mr. Baliga, good morning. Pleasure having you with us right here on News 9 again. Take us through your views, the trading scene set up this Monday morning. Well, not in line with US markets reaching all-time high, but it's not really the worst that we've seen. I think a 1/5 percentage point cut in Sensex is not really bad news, is it?
No, after the sort of a move which we have seen in the past few days, a small correction, in fact, is healthy for the markets.
Right.
Because it in fact, sets it up for the next move up. Because if you look around, as far as the news is concerned, geopolitical issues are not really bothering the markets much now. I think the worst seems to be behind, at least for the time being. You have enough liquidity in the market. If you look at the macro numbers, especially India, I mean, it's been better than expected. Whether you talk of inflation, whether you talk of GST numbers, GDP growth, industrial production, PMI numbers, I mean, wherever you look at, the numbers are better than expected. Now, going ahead, clearly the markets are expecting something from the Q1 earnings. So that's the other trigger which the markets could have. I think the only issue which can happen over the next few days is the tariff deadline. That's July 9th. So before that, I really don't expect the trade agreement to be in place. So there could be some amount of caution or speculation on this subject. So that's, I think, the only issue as far as the markets are concerned. Otherwise, if you look at it technically, I think 25,200 was a major resistance for the market. I mean, we have touched those levels a number of times and gone down. And in the last few days, we have crossed those levels decisively. So even technically, we are poised for at least a decent up move from here. And I'll not be surprised, if over the next couple of weeks, we are able to cross the highs which we had seen in September last year.
Right.
So I think we need to be bullish on the markets at this point of time.
All right. Well, those highs that we saw on 27th September, you're saying a couple of months, perhaps. What would be the dateline that you would set? Is it going to be September again, or do you think we will see it earlier, perhaps in the month of July or August?
No, I think we should see that in July. I mean, if you have a couple of the first set of numbers coming positive as far as the Q1 numbers are concerned, I think we should be able to cross those earlier highs. I mean, from a fundamental angle, yes, I think at those levels the markets could again become a tad bit expensive. But right now, technically and the momentum wise, if you look at, I think the markets are poised for those levels.
All right. You were talking about geopolitical events, especially the tariffs, Mr. Baliga, just a few minutes ago. But another geopolitical event or a geoeconomic event would be the US's Fed Reserve's decision on whether to hold rates or go ahead, come under pressure from Donald Trump and cut those rates. Now, the July policy is just a few days away. If we were to genuinely see a cut this time around by the US Fed, even though Jerome Powell is saying that he's not going to cut right now, he's going to wait until September. But in case we do see a cut this time by political pressure weighing in on his decision, what could that mean, especially for IT stocks in India?
I think, I mean, overall, that should be positive because as far as the IT stocks are concerned, I think the major issue has been the growth as far as US is concerned. And because of that, the sort of order flows which can come for the IT stocks. So in case this happens, it should be positive for the IT stocks overall.
All right, positive for IT stocks. Meanwhile, you also talked about inflation in India, India's macros being fine. Inflation data, which is a high-frequency indicator, is again likely to come out for the month of June in the next few days. Now, I want to specifically talk about FMCG stocks and FMCG stocks which are largely going to be linked to inflation. What is your assessment on inflation data, given the fact that monsoon expectations are expected to be in line and no real adverse impact of monsoons expected this year? How do you suppose FMCG stocks should be traded for the next few months or so?
See, I mean, monsoons have been positive in the sense. I mean, we've already like it has reached all India. I think 9 days prior to the average, and the monsoons have also been decently widespread at this point of time. So clearly, that should be good for the FMCG sector as such. I mean, where in fact in the last couple of quarters we have seen that volume growth has been a concern. But now I think it would be driven by the rural growth, which is expected at least over the next 2 quarters. So FMCG is one space to be in. And if you see, even in this sort of a rally, we have not really seen FMCG performing. I mean, in fact, in the last 12 months, we have not seen FMCG performing.
That's
so
right.
I think a decent amount of value in that segment. So that's one to be looked at.
All right. And banking sector continues to reel under some pressure. In fact, we saw exactly the same thing on the heat map on Friday. And this morning, again, we are seeing that the banking sector seems to be under some pressure. HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, both down more than about, about 0.4% or so in trade this morning. And similarly, you've got Kotak also down about 0.5 percentage point, Axis down about 0.5 percentage point. What is stressing out the banking sector at this moment?
See, I think, this sort of a correction which we are seeing right now in the banking pack or the sort of weakness which we are seeing, I think it's a buying opportunity because, going further, I think over the next 1 or 2 quarters, we should really see the credit growth really happening because of the rate cuts which we have seen, which are much better than expected. And I think the next rate cut would be sometime in December, not before that. And in the meanwhile, I think we should see that credit growth happening, which should be positive for the banking space. So I would say utilize any of these corrections to buy into banking because if you're positive on the Indian economy overall in the long term, you can't go wrong with the banking space.
All right. So buy on dip seems to be the strategy coming in from Amrish Balika for banking stocks. And I also want to draw your attention to energy stocks this morning, given the fact that oil prices have cooled significantly. In fact, now trading at their lowest levels in 2023. And we are seeing a positive rub-off of that on ONGC, IOC, OIL. All these stocks are up more than about 1% or so in trade this morning. Where do you expect oil prices to finally settle down, assuming that stability in the Middle East is something that one can hope for, at least for the foreseeable future? Do we think that there are no more shocks expected on the oil front, and hence this would be a good time to stay invested in energy stocks, sir?
I think that's a major assumption that there won't be any future shocks because these shocks do come without any sort of warnings. But again, assuming that there are no future shocks, I think the oil prices should stabilize in this region, possibly plus minus either 5 to 8% from here. And that would be a positive both for the producer nations as well as the user nations. I think there has to be a decent balance, and that balance is around these levels. As far as the sectors are concerned, I think the OMCs would be the biggest beneficiaries of this. At the same time, the user industries. I mean, you have paints, you have tires. I mean, it's across. I mean, it is all the downstream user sectors. I think they would benefit to a large extent. And like I said, I think that the top beneficiaries would be paints and tires.
Paints and tires likely to be the top beneficiaries on the movements in the oil market. Mr. Balika, I also want to specifically discuss one or two stocks with you, and one happens to be Indigo, Interglobe Aviation. And after all the turmoil that we are seeing on Air India ever since that horrific crash on June 12th, there seems to be, anecdotally at least, there seems to be some evidence that people are preferring not to fly Air India right now. And we are seeing the Indigo stock for the last almost 20 days or so has been climbing up gradually a little bit every day. Even this morning, Indigo is up almost 1.7% or so. At the same time, of course, we are also seeing the cooling oil prices, and that also seems to bode well for aviation stocks. But what is really driving Indigo, and what should the investors do, those who are already invested and those who perhaps want to take part in India's aviation story?
See, Indigo has been doing well for a long time. So whatever has happened, unfortunate incident with Air India has happened in the last, like some time back. That in a way has benefited Indigo, because people do prefer to fly Indigo if given a chance as compared to Air India. And at the same time, it's been like one of the most efficient airlines, and that's one of the reasons why it's getting this valuation. And now with the oil prices coming down, which again is a major input for any aviation industry, I think that should be beneficial for Indigo even going ahead. So I think those who have Indigo, I think should just hold on. I think this is a decently long-term story. And those who don't have Indigo, I think any sort of a correction should be important too.
Right, any correction should be an opportunity. Stay with me, Mr. Balika. There's another very interesting story coming from Zomato, and that is something I want to discuss with you again, given that there is positive movement even on the Eternal stock this morning. And this comes by way of Dipinder Goyal, who co-founded food delivery platform Zomato, is now eyeing the regional air travel segment with LAT Aerospace. And that seems to be according to a LinkedIn post by the aerospace startup co-founder Surabhi Das. Now, Goyal's bet on the aviation venture could perhaps redefine regional air travel in India, which is at a nascent stage as uncertainty remains over regulatory clearance, technological capability and public adoption. Now, as per the LinkedIn post of the founder of LAT Aerospace, Surabhi Das, she said that while building Zomato and flying across India, Dipinder and Das kept circling back to the same question, that why is regional air travel still so broken, expensive, infrequent and mostly out of reach unless you live in a metro city. Now, India has 450 plus airstrips, but only about 150 of those see commercial flights, as per Surabhi Das's post. Now that means nearly 2/3 of aviation potential is being wasted. Meanwhile, millions in tier 2 and tier 3 cities spend hours, sometimes days, traveling by road or rail. Now, outlining the vision behind building LAT Aerospace, Surabhi Das further stated that affordable, high frequency and designed to connect the places the airline industry has overlooked, LAT's aircraft will take off and land in compact air stops no bigger than a parking lot built closer to where people live. So what she says is no kiosks, no security lines, just walk in and fly. Mr. Balika, no direct reference to Zomato really partnering with LAT Aircraft and Airspace, but an interesting sort of an observation coming from one of the co-founders of Zomato, who now heads LAT Aerospace, saying that perhaps LAT small aircraft just operate from parking lot sized airstrips, just come, board the aircraft, go, come back. Is this a story that you think is likely to pick up? Because I remember last year even Indigo had suggested that it is signing with the Archer Aviation, and vertical takeoff landing intra-city taxi services would start by 2025. It later got pushed to 2026. How do you see this space, and how do you see players like Indigo and Eternal both participating here?
No, see, it's a huge opportunity, no doubt. But then aviation overall, if you look at the history of aviation, not many people have been able to crack the code. And Indigo, I think, is the only Indian aviation company in the last so many decades. We have seen more than 10, 15 decent sized, aviation companies come and go. So Indigo was the only one which managed to crack that code. So we need to see as to who is able to come here and crack this code as far as the regional connectivity is concerned. But like I said, it's a huge opportunity. Again, we need to see whether someone like Indigo with past experience is able to do that in this space, or whether someone without any experience coming in with new ideas and cracking the code. I think that's the big question.
Right, that of course is the million-dollar question that we will leave our viewers with. And thank you so much, Mr. Baliga, for your time this morning. Pleasure having you as always right here on News9.
Yeah.
And well, with that, it's time for another short break, but a lot more coming up on the other side of the break. You are watching News9.
झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
Hey, careful, huh? My daddy got it from abroad. Hey, disaster! How will you pay for the loss now?
In stock market, you should take risk as per your capacity and knowledge. Trade in options very carefully.
Wow, Dikra! Absolutely perfect. Take risk with full understanding.
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर.
A deep dive into what matters to you the most. Angles you won't find anywhere else. News that impacts your life.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching One Brief at 9 on News9. US senators moved closer on Sunday to a vote on President Donald Trump's sweeping spending bill dubbed as the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, the proposal aims to cement Donald Trump's legacy by extending his first-term tax cuts at a cost of $4.5 trillion and boosting funding for border security. Now, the bill's steep cuts to social welfare programs, including health care for millions of low-income Americans, have split Republicans, especially with the 2026 midterms on the horizon. The Senate began formal debate late Saturday after delays from GOP holdouts. The procedural vote narrowly passed a motion to begin debate on the bill, with 2 Republicans siding with Democrats and prompting sharp criticism from the US president, who wants the bill signed into law by July the 4th. US President Donald Trump said in a Fox News interview that he had secured a buyer for TikTok, describing the interested party as a group of very wealthy people, promising to reveal their identities within 2 weeks. Trump added that the deal would likely require approval from China and predicted President Xi Jinping would give it a green light. Earlier this month, Trump extended the deadline for ByteDance to sell TikTok's US assets to September 17th, even as the law demands a sale or shutdown if no progress is made.
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with it.
And staying with the United States, President Donald Trump lashed out at prosecutors in Israel over the corruption trial of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in another Truth Social post over the weekend. While the Israeli court has postponed Netanyahu's hearings for the week, it remains unclear whether that move was influenced by Donald Trump's comments on ongoing ceasefire efforts in the region. Here's a report.
We think within
US President Donald Trump has lashed out at prosecutors in Israel over the corruption trial of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Saturday's post was Trump's second in a few days, defending Netanyahu and calling for the cancellation of the trial. This time he went a step further to tie Israel's legal action to US aid, saying Washington, having given billions of dollars worth of aid to Israel, was not going to stand for this. On Sunday, the Jerusalem District Court cancelled Netanyahu's hearings this week, accepting a request the Israeli leader made, citing classified diplomatic and security grounds. It was unclear whether Trump's post influenced the court's decision. But he also suggested the trial could interfere with Netanyahu's ability to join negotiations with the Palestinian militant group Hamas and Iran to end the war in Gaza. A ceasefire couldn't come too soon for these residents of Khan Yunis, as they mourned 5 people killed in an Israeli airstrike on a tent encampment, medics said. On Sunday, Trump called again for an end to the war. Make the deal in Gaza, get the hostages back, he posted on his Truth Social platform.
I think it's close.
He has said in the past few days that he believed a ceasefire was close. Netanyahu was indicted in 2019 in Israel on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust, all of which he denies. He was due to take the stand for cross-examination on Monday.
And moving on to a story on the U.S. economy. U.S. consumer spending unexpectedly declined in the month of May as the earlier surge in purchases driven by fears of incoming tariffs began to fade. Now, spending on items like motor vehicles slowed while inflation continued to rise at a steady and moderate pace. More details in this next report.
U.S. consumer spending unexpectedly fell in May as the boost from preemptive buying ahead of President Trump's tariffs faded. A report from the U.S. Commerce Department out Friday showed consumer spending dipped 0.1% last month. Economists polled by Reuters had expected it to edge up 0.1%. It marked the second decline in consumer spending this year. Consumer spending accounts for more than 2/3 of U.S. economic activity. Meanwhile, inflation in May remained muted but drifted further away from the Federal Reserve's target. The Personal Consumption Expenditures, or PCE, price index edged up slightly, putting the annual inflation rate at 2.3%. Core inflation, which strips out volatile food and energy prices, rose by 2.7% over the year ending in May. The Federal Reserve closely tracks PCE price measures as it aims to lower inflation to an annual rate of 2%. But Friday's data will likely have little impact on the Fed's near-term monetary policy. Fed Chair Jerome Powell told lawmakers this week that the central bank needs more time to gauge the potential inflationary impact of Trump's tariffs before the Fed considers resuming interest rate cuts.
And staying with stories on the economy and business from fresh U.S. jobs numbers expected to reveal the state of the labor market to new signals out of China's economy. Investors are watching several key data points that could shape the week ahead in business and finance. Now, here's everything you can expect from the world of business and economy this week.
From U.S. jobs data to a check-in on China's economy, these are the stories to watch in business and finance in the coming week. The year crosses the halfway line, and while U.S. President Donald Trump's return to power was always going to ruffle markets, some describe it as a once-in-a-generation great rotation. King dollar is having its worst start to a year since the era of free-floating currencies began, as U.S. debt worries grow. And the Magnificent Seven stocks are flat too, compared to a near 20% leap by Chinese big tech, gold's 25% surge, and a 60% boom in European defense stocks. The latest U.S. jobs data due on July 3rd will shed light on the health of the labor market. It comes as investors are debating at what point the Fed will next cut rates. According to a Reuters poll, June numbers are expected to show employment grew by 129,000 jobs, modestly slower than May's increase. Investors are also watching the progress of Trump's tax cut and spending bill, which he hopes to sign into law before the July 4th holiday. The European Central Bank's annual forum in Sintra, Portugal, gets started on Tuesday. Focus will be on what rate setters, from ECB Chief Christine Lagarde to the Fed's Jerome Powell, say on never-ending geopolitical turbulence. Powell is in the spotlight, with Trump considering naming his successor early, fanning worries over Fed independence. We are halfway through the year, and China's long-awaited economic recovery has barely taken off. Monday's official Purchasing Managers Index figures will likely paint the same bleak picture investors have faced for most of the year as Trump's tariffs hit manufacturing activity. The Caixin S&P Global Manufacturing PMI reading follows the official release a day later. Chinese officials sound upbeat about the growth outlook, but huge uncertainties loom.
And moving to Europe now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday signed a decree to begin withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention or the Mine Ban Treaty, an international treaty that bans the use and production of anti-personnel mines. In a video address, Zelensky said that the move was difficult but necessary to defend Ukrainian territory and civilians from Russian attacks. He pointed out that Russia never joined the treaty even during its full-scale war against Ukraine. The decision, which still requires parliamentary ratification and UN notification, follows similar decisions by Kyiv's allies, Poland, Finland, Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, all neighbors of Russia. Now remember, landmines are small bombs hidden in the ground that can explode when someone steps on them, often hurting or killing people, including civilians, long after a war is over. More than 160 countries have signed the treaty, but some big countries like Russia, the United States and China never signed it. Well, Jeff Bezos-owned American space technology company Blue Origin launched another successful sub-orbital mission from West Texas on Sunday, sending 6 passengers, including lawyers, a philanthropist and business executives, on an 11-minute journey to space and back. The New Shepard rocket lifted off around 10:40 a.m. local time and crossed the Kármán line, where the crew experienced brief weightlessness. The mission marked the company's 13th human spaceflight.
New Shepard has cleared the tower. Beautiful shot.
Starting roll program.
NS-33, we are on our way.
In other corporate America stories, American sportswear maker Nike announced that it will reduce its manufacturing footprint in China to focus instead on US markets in response to Trump tariffs, while also forecasting a smaller than expected drop in first quarter revenue. The outlook reassured investors, sending Nike's shares up 11% in after-hours trading. Take a look.
Nike missed one goal this week. It tried to help Kenyan runner Faith Kipyegon become the first woman to run a sub-4-minute mile. In the end, she fell just short, but still set an unofficial new record. Off the track, the sportswear giant has a very different race to run. It's trying to beat the impact of Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs. On Thursday, the company said it would reduce its reliance on China for manufacturing goods it sells in the US as part of the strategy. China currently accounts for about 16% of the shoes it imports to the United States, and Nike aims to cut that to the high single digits range by the end of May next year. Investors welcomed the news, sending Nike shares soaring 11% in after-hours trade. Also helping sentiment were forecast-beating results for the latest period. Fourth quarter sales sank 12%, but analysts had expected even worse. China is the pain point there too, with executives saying a turnaround in the country will take time amid a weak economy and mounting competition. The company is now a bit more optimistic than analysts about the coming period, however. It predicts sales will see a percentage fall in the mid-single digits, or less than Wall Street has forecast. Analysts say running shoes are doing well for Nike. making up for expected declines in the sales of regular sneakers.
And from an American manufacturer to a Chinese one, shares of Chinese manufacturer Xiaomi surged to a record high on Friday after exceptionally strong initial orders for its new YU7 electric SUV stunned markets. The surprising demand boosted investor confidence and sparked fresh speculation that Tesla could be pressured into cutting prices to stay competitive in China's rapidly evolving EV market. Here's a report.
The pressure just keeps mounting for Tesla in China. Friday saw local rival Xiaomi announce exceptionally strong orders for its new YU7 electric vehicle. The car is aimed squarely at Tesla's Model Y and undercuts it on price. Analysts say it also comprehensively beats the US vehicle on specs and performance. Xiaomi says it secured 289,000 orders in the car's first hour on sale. That was more than 3 times the level for its first car model last year, the SU7 sedan, and almost triple market expectations. Analysts say Tesla's Model Y will probably lose market share in China as a result. That would rub salt in the wound for the US firm, which has been steadily losing ground to Chinese rivals. Its share of the EV market there has fallen from 15% in 2020 to about half that level over the first few months of this year. Xiaomi's SU7, for one, has outsold Tesla's competing Model 3 every month since December. Analysts at Citi say Elon Musk's company may have no choice but to cut prices in response. They say it may also have to offer its so-called full self-driving system for free instead of as a charged option. Tesla didn't respond to a request for comment on its plans. Xiaomi shares shot 8% higher on Friday's news, hitting a record high. Though they later pared some of those gains, the stock has still more than tripled over the past year. That values the firm, until recently better known for its smartphones, at nearly $200 billion.
And moving on now, Madrid is sweltering under its first major heat wave of the summer, with temperatures soaring past 40 degrees Celsius across much of Spain. Locals and tourists alike are finding creative ways to beat the heat, resting in shade, cooling off under public sprinklers, or grabbing cold drinks from busy vendors. Public spaces, meanwhile, sit largely deserted under the searing sun. An intense rainfall in the Andean region of Venezuela caused infrastructure to collapse and damage to houses and crops, mostly in the towns. Now, heavy rains this week caused rivers to swell, leaving some 103 houses destroyed, over 8,450 families isolated in the state of Merida, and 25 bridges collapsed. No fatalities, however, have been reported. And with that, we come to an end of this edition of the Morning Brief at 9. News and updates continue right here on News 9. Stay tuned.
ये होल्डर था, एक तेरे लिए मंगाओ? नहीं। मेरे नए म्यूजिक गॉगल्स मंगाओ क्या?
गाड़ी कप होल्डर है, ठोकी भी रख सकते हैं, म्यूजिक भी।
सेविंग्स की विद्या तो फिर तुझसे सीखी।
कुछ बड़ा बनाना है तो पहले बचाओ। फेडरल बैंक से रिश्ता बनाओ।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
सर, पेन रिलीफ के लिए
ये देखो, ये काफी है।
2 हफ्ते का टूर है, कहीं कम ना पड़ जाए।
दुबे जी, ये छोटा सा डायनाबार QPS प्लस आपके 2 स्प्रे के बराबर है।
पेश है डायनाबार QPS प्लस।
लगा के देखो, मान जाओगे।
डायनाबार QPS प्लस।
A deep dive into what matters to you the most. Angles you won't find anywhere else. News that impacts your life.
What began as a day of celebration turned into a tragedy. The High Court has stepped in and political blame game has ensued. Why is it so difficult in Indian society to say no, mistake has been made? This timeline is going to make things very clear. This was very much avoidable. Unparalleled scene, unimaginable to watch America and Europe are reaping what they have sown. Is this the new frontier of the American politics?
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every scene, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
Is this politics of appeasement?
That is the ground reality.
The violence continued unabated for the next 24 hours. Why is there Mamta for Pahalgam but not for Murshidabad?
Everyone in Pakistan is saying that India has punished us. You are all agreeing that Operation Sindoor is a success. तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है? किसका नमाज़े जनाजा निकल रहा था बहावलपुर में और रावलपिंडी में?
Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers, the Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas. What began as a day of celebration turned into a tragedy. The High Court has stepped in and political blame game has ensued. Why is it so difficult in Indian society to say no, mistake has been made? This timeline is going to make things very clear. This was very much avoidable. Unparalleled scene, unimaginable to watch America and Europe are reaping what they have sown. Is this the new frontier of the American politics?
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Hello and welcome to News 9. I'm Verghese Abraham. First up, let's take a look at the top stories of the hour. DK Shivkumar's loyalist Iqbal Hussain hints at Karnataka Chief Minister change, says High Command will decide within 3 months. Four-member fact-finding committee of BJP to visit Kolkata today to assess the law and order situation in West Bengal. India fast-tracks 52 defense satellites post-Operation Sindoor. Plan aims to boost surveillance over China, Pakistan, India oceans region by 2029. Authorities issue red alert in Himachal for heavy rain. Schools closed in 4 districts of Himachal amid heavy rainfall. IMD issues red alert in Uttarakhand amid heavy rainfall. All schools and Anganwadi centres from classes 1 to 12 across the state to remain closed today. Israel orders evacuation of Gaza's Jabalia and northern sectors amid ongoing strikes. Families move to Sheikh Radwan area following new army directives. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says trade talks with the US resume after Canada rescinds digital tax plan targeting tech giants. Two firefighters shot dead while responding to a blaze in North Idaho. Governor Brad urges people to stay away from the area. The big story that we are tracking at the moment. Now, in a shocking incident in Tamil Nadu, a 27-year-old temple security guard who was reportedly being detained for questioning in connection with a theft case was allegedly beaten to death while in custody, as the claims from his family are. Now, what we understand is that the deceased man, who has been identified as Ajit Kumar, worked as a guard at the Mandapuram Kaliamman temple in Shivagangai, managed by the Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowments, or the HRCE department. According to several reports, it is being said that his body was shifted to his family after post-mortem under police protection. Meanwhile, following this, Ajit's family submitted a petition demanding, among others, a judicial inquiry and strict departmental action, as well as preventive measures to avoid such incidents in the future. He is scheduled to have been cremated at the local burial ground. Meanwhile, politics has also broken out with regard to this, with the AIDMK questioning the custodial death that has occurred and asking why custody deaths seem to be a recurrent phenomenon when it comes to the DMK rule in Tamil Nadu. My colleague Taijakshi in fact joins us with more. Taijakshi, now this is another custodial death we have seen during the DMK's rule. There have been several sensational ones that have been happening, and Tamil Nadu has also had the problem of custodial deaths in certain places that had in fact led to even protests from several